Welcome.
Bienvenidos, bienvenidas.
Willkommen.
Ahla wa sahla to breakfast together.
Hello, United.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Bom dia! Bem-vindos nesse episódio do Breakfast Together podcast.
Oh my God.
That's a very
Turning to
confusing,
Brazil this morning.
confusing intro, Irena.
Yeah, I'm feeling tropical.
Oh, yes, I'm sure
It's good. We need some of that in winter.
Yes, in this very sunny morning, I'm sure it's a very. We also have a very tropical feeling. Unfortunately, we're only three today because Dimi's he has stuff to prepare for a big trip. So yeah, he won't be joining us. So I will do my best to represent all of like the two Greeks on my own. So yeah,
No easy task.
and hello to future Dimi, by the way, who's gonna be editing this podcast. So he's gonna be part of it just later.
Oh yeah. We miss you.
He's gonna be at the most fun part of the podcast.
Exactly. We hope it's worth it.
But I want to start with an anecdote that we had coffee with Dimi a few days ago, and I realized that man, like this, especially Dimi, he's throwing in so much Spanish when he's speaking Greek. It's like sometimes he forgets Greek words, he throws in Spanish words, he says them with a Spanish accent.
Que malaca.
Yeah, I think
This is so funny because we don't know that side of Dimi. We don't speak to him in Greek.
yeah, and I didn't realize this because we also have a different side of ourselves depending on the language we speak. So yeah, and we made a deal when we speak with Dimi that we're gonna try to use the Greek word for every term we use.
Oh wow!
Yes, and we ended up using a lot of Greek words for like very IT terminology, which sounded very cringy. So I told him, man, we're taking this too
Does
far.
it even work?
Yeah, it works, but it sounds like very how do you say, like very like you're pretending,
Artificial.
you're showing off, like, oh, look at me,
Okay.
Yeah.
all of the fancy Greek words I know that I'm using with English terms. So yeah, it does have this effect, like that sometimes when you don't use like the international word, you use the word in your own language, at least in Greek, it really feels like you try to show off your Greek language. It's not a really nice feeling. I don't know. Have you guys ever had this feeling
That's
before?
so interesting. Yeah, dear listeners, just to throw in here, as we always say, you still haven't guessed, the topic of today's episode is mixing languages.
Love
And
it.
yeah, I don't know, like to start off, in general, I can tell you my feelings about mixing languages. Like I consider myself to be a language purist. Like I don't really like mixing languages that much. However, I think that sometimes it is good and sometimes it is necessary. And what you were just talking about, like, especially when I talk about, I don't know, my work, because I work like in Norwegian and English, but I think mostly in Norwegian. So it's extremely hard for me to speak about that in any other language. And language learning, surprisingly enough, I lack the vocabulary in Russian. And also, given the fact that I have been living abroad for such a long time, like the words don't always come to me easily. So I do mix, and I think that sometimes it's okay. When I try to use Russian words, it's true. When I say everything in Russian, it kind of feels a little bit like off, but more like maybe like artificial. Like you can say that word, but not that many people would. So it's like
It's a bit
kind of
unnatural.
it is context based, though. It really depends on the situation and depends on with whom you're talking to. And I have to say, like, one more thing before I want to hear about Asya's experience. I think it also depends, yes, whom you talk to. For example, Asya, which is the queen of mixing languages. Everyone knows this if you know Asya in person or through the podcast. And with her, I feel like for me, for example, it's more natural to mix languages because she also does that. So you naturally mimic the way or the style of the person uses with you.
In
But
Greek, we say kakes pares, which means bad company, bad influence.
exactly, bad influence.
Oh, bad? Bad? Really?
Oh yeah.
Prove us wrong.
This is not the worst influence that can be
Bad influence, Bad
observed,
Bunny.
but I exactly.
No, good
But
one.
I do get it, and I see both of the points in terms of being pretentious. Sometimes I am misunderstood, and this is what I definitely can confirm about whom you're talking to. It's very important, though. I absolutely cannot imagine myself not mixing languages. I mean, even if I know that the other person is monolingual, I still am going to throw into some stuff that is not probably the spoken language of that person. And the example I can give is that my husband, he's bilingual, Turkish English, and I very often just throw Italian words. And it may seem like some kind of a craziness, but there's nothing crazy because international is internazionale. So why would you bother saying international if internazionale is perfectly understood? So we speak, we
Why
go
would you say
around.
internacional?
No, because it's just more. I don't know. It just seems to me like
More
More
better. You
internacional,
know,
internazionale.
exactly,
Eh.
and exactly. I mean, it's just natural, and I guess
But how does he
it's
react
very.
to that?
Oh, absolutely normal right now. He throws
yeah.
himself some words that
Okay.
kind of he creates, I guess, now, and he understands what I say. So I think it is a little bit. How can I say? It is part of personality that people that know me come to sort of
Mm,
accept,
true.
and the
Yeah.
only setup and environment where I can imagine myself not mixing languages is where I am in some kind of a serious setup, which can be a
Hmm.
job interview or some kind of situation which really requires to stick to one language. And
Hmm.
those situations are quite rare on a daily basis. So I absolutely enjoy. Mescolato tutto, you just throw it in
There you
and it
go.
goes and change the accent and stuff like this. It's great because this is who I am. I see myself as the sort of a
Yeah.
rainbow of languages and some other things, and you know that's just how it is. So I'm sorry for everyone who struggles understanding me,
Sorry, not
especially at
sorry.
I,
first.
I
I
love the
mean,
accent changes, especially. That's
I guess I mean
Oh,
I can definitely confirm because Asya and I mostly speak to each other in Russian, and then like she says to me things. I mean, like my Polish, of course, is not as good as hers, and she says to me things in Polish. I'm like, what does it mean? Why are you? What does it mean? You know, it's like that meme. What do you want? It's not that simple. What do
it
you
makes
want?
curiosity,
And then she says, but Polish is okay. Polish is kind of manageable for me. And then she says something in Turkish, which is completely, and I'm like,
yeah,
well, so talking
yeah,
to us, that
wallah.
you
That would be easier for me
you
and Dimi,
have to
maybe,
be
with Greek.
very concentrated. You have to put your brain to work
I'm
all the
checking if you're
time.
still following what I'm
You,
saying.
you
That's
know, like
that's
yeah,
great.
exactly, like uh-huh.
Trying to keep attention. Yeah,
Just
exactly.
keeping you awake, like just throwing some random words and see, like, are you paying attention? Are you paying attention?
Exactly, exactly. But a follow up question: do you think that mixing languages is laziness or a sign of stronger bilingual ability?
I mean, I think it's depends if it happens on purpose or if it happens because Dimi, because you're forgetting your own language.
Throwing shade at him.
He's not here, so it's like sorry, future Dimi. Sorry, not sorry.
He's like the Holy Spirit. He's with us in spirit.
Exactly, yes,
Always.
and I'm the son. um, because I think that, I mean, sometimes you can use like a foreign word to be more precise, and I mean this has been happening since like I guess like centuries. In Greek, we actually have many. Now that I'm learning a bit of French, I realize that we have a ton of French words in Greek that we've been using for like 200 years or something. Like tete-a-tete, for example, is like when you talk in
Ah,
person
we
to
say the
somebody,
same
just
in
the two of
Russian.
you.
Yeah.
There's no other way to say it. You just say tete-a-tete, and you don't even think about where it comes from. So I think it's kind of normal when especially when it's a new concept or something that a very specific terminology that you don't have in your language. But I think very often we end up using some words only in one language, and then we kind of forget how it sounds in our original language because of the context to speak these
Mm.
languages in. And then you kind of start forgetting it, and then that's the first thing that comes to mind, and you don't bother to try to think of your own word, and you just use it, and you keep using it, and that's why you forget. And during our coffee with Dimi, we had this. We had actually put in effort to think of like what is that word in Greek. So for me, that's a bit of like laziness in that sense. So
Mm.
I think it can be both. It can be both, but it has to be conscious in order to not train your brain to be lazy. Let's say. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I guess it's exactly what you say. Plus,
Do you second that?
I notice myself. No, I I'm not going to second that, but I'm going to say
Fearful.
moreover. Exactly, moreover. But to be completely honest, everything is it has to be balanced. It's very
Mm.
important sometimes to try to get into the area of your brain where you force yourself to just choose the words from that particular language. And I do notice how my brain works and functions completely differently when I actually try to focus on finding words and
Mhm.
describing what I would like to describe in a particular language. And I think
Hmm.
people who learn languages and who specifically work with their brain in a very conscious manner, because the language learners that are independent, like ourselves, for example, we are, seems to me like we're quite aware of how our brain works. And for example, I don't know, working Duolingo, you do catch yourself, if anybody worked, because I did, that's why I'm just saying that you're catching yourself very easily on the fact that your brain is actually not functioning, even though you can lure yourself into saying you study the language. In fact, Duolingo, unfortunately, very often just gives you this illusion of you doing anything, but you don't
Hmm.
actually learn. So I think to be very conscious about how your mind and where the laziness is kicking
Mhm.
in, and where it is, kind of a instinct, and you say it because so many languages are in your brain, and maybe some words are describing something better than from that language you're using at the moment. But for sure, the concentrated work in one language is
Mhm.
something that from time to time should be happening, just for the sake of practicing as well. That one,
Yeah.
it's not really, to just to avoid that laziness.
Speaking of practicing, okay, I want to actually like to do you guys another question. Um, what do you do when you actually learn a new language? Because, for example, I noticed that in German I try to avoid English words because I feel that
Mhm.
I'm failing if I use an English word. It means that I don't know the German words, so I have to like kind
Mm.
of like give up and use the English word instead. Whereas the native speakers, they use a ton of English words,
Mhm.
and you actually end up sounding unnatural because you're using too many native words because of this training that you have to improve your vocabulary. So I wanted to ask you, Irena, like when you learn a new language, do you also do you also like try to be like a purist and use only like the words in the language you're learning?
That's so curious that you mentioned that, because I was just about to say that, for example, regarding my Arabic, like my Arabic is, I would guess, like an intermediate, maybe upper intermediate level right now. And it is like partly due to laziness, if I'm honest, that I mix it with English. But what I figured out specifically about the dialect that I'm using, and I'm using the Levantine dialect, which is like closer to Syrian, but could be also mistaken for Lebanese or Palestinian, because I used to live there. So I when I mix it with English, it actually sounds the way the native speakers actually speak, because they
Hmm.
mix with
Exactly.
English a lot. And then some of those Levantine dialects, for example, Lebanese is the dialect on top, like they mix with English and French the most.
Hmm.
Syrian mixes a lot less. I would say Palestinian is somewhere in the middle. So that made me even more lazy. And I was like, okay, so basically, I mix it and I sound just like them. So why not? And sometimes I try to use also, like, I can definitely relate to what you said. I try to use the correct words. And people look at me in a strange way, but sometimes they also praise me and they say, you see, she used that word. We don't even use that. That, like, yeah, that's so good. That shows that she has a high level of language, which I don't know if I would agree, because, as you say, like, if they themselves mostly use that word, then that's the word I guess you should be using, even though it is not correct. And also, I would like to add that there are certain languages or certain dialects, in the case of Lebanese, or Levantine in general, that are more susceptible to mixing with other languages than others. Example, I just returned from the Philippines and Taiwan. And in Taiwan, I mean, I don't speak Mandarin, so I wouldn't know, but it didn't sound to me that they were mixing too much. But in Tagalog, or Cebuano, the local Filipino languages, they mixed a lot. It's just a language that naturally accepts all the foreign words. Like they have tons of words from Spanish, a lot of
Mhm.
words from English, maybe some other languages, but those are the two recognizable for me. Same goes for Hindi, right? Like Hindi is
Yep.
known for just
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like mixing and blending in. So some languages are like that. Other languages are less accepting of foreign words. An example, Icelandic. Like it's a
Hmm.
famous one. They have an academy. They try very hard to make their own words for everything. They're not very happy about new words. So also Slavic languages, for example, we have a lot of foreign words in our languages. I think Russian maybe has maybe the most foreign words, I would argue. But then
Really?
Slavic languages are very good at making their own Slavic words for things, like the plane is the thing that flies, the car is the thing that goes, and etc. etc. So
I think there is a big kind of a concept as well in Slavic languages when you speak, especially with English words, and that usually happens to people that work in corporations or for some mm, for some companies that are not, let's say, Slavic based companies. People mix a
Hmm.
lot of English, and sometimes it straight away is sort of seen as you're trying to show off. And I
Hmm.
guess
mhm,
that's
Yep.
mhm,
in Polish it happens a lot. We have a lot of Polish celebrities living in America, and they kind of they're being accused of twinkling Polish language, so it sounds American, and they kind of put American words and all that, and it's kind of, again, I guess it's very sort of a sensitive thing, and it depends who you
mhm,
speak to. But there is also a way to put English word into the language, because if you are actually speaking, let's say, Polish, Russian, or any other language, and you pronounce, you use an English word, let's say, but you pronounce it with the Russian accent, it's fine.
mhm.
But if you are
Yeah.
trying to say
Yeah,
blah blah
yes.
blah something computer, and you're trying to sound like American or British, then they're like,
It's
what?
so fake.
Like,
It's
And
exactly the
it's
same with Greek. Like another,
yep,
for example, in German, they always switch the accent when they say like
yep,
a foreign word, like an English or French word. In Greek, we call like I don't know, like we say manager, not manager, or we say like
mm,
yeah,
meeting, not meeting, or
yeah,
so
exactly.
you have to keep the Greek accent. If you don't keep the Greek accent, you sound like very, how do you say,
In Polish, it's
exactly.
exactly
high
that.
nose.
Mm.
Jestem na meetingu. I'm at the meeting. You don't say
Meetingo.
jestem na meeting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They actually conjugate,
Love
even
it.
adding Polish
Yeah.
conjugation
Love it.
to
Love
the
it.
English
Love it.
word, and there's so many examples like this. But if
Hmm.
you say jestem na meeting, people be like,
Nah,
"What?
nah.
That's
It
really
sounds
weird."
so
Jestem na meetingu.
pretentious. And it's funny
Yeah, it sounds
because
really
in
weird.
Greek we actually say pretentious with like we don't use the Greek word. We don't know what's the Greek word for it. We just say είναι πολύ pretentious. So
Pretentious.
which is ironic, I guess.
Why are you so
Wow.
pretentious?
But another thing that I like sometimes
Πολύ
it's easy to
pretentious.
use foreign words in like in another language, but I find it gets very tricky when it's very similar languages. Like for example, I imagine like
Mm,
Ukrainian and Polish, or my
Yeah.
biggest example is Spanish and Portuguese, which I found it very tricky to learn. Also,
careful.
like Asya,
Mm.
I think had the same problem with Italian and
Oh
Spanish,
no. Oh no.
and
Italiol.
Oh,
Italiol guerra continues. Don't
oh
worry.
no. Oh no,
and
no, 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 no.
I had a funny and interesting realization. I'm gonna talk shit about Dimi a bit more. Okay, let's cut this. I'm gonna embarrass Dimi one more time.
Oh my
I used
god.
him as an experiment. So I noticed that Dimi, when he was speaking Portuguese, he had like a Spanish accent, and whenever he said a word that was the same in both languages, his brain kind of, it's like his ears heard his mouth. Oh, it's a Spanish word, and the brain was like, oh, we speak Spanish now, and then he just switched to Spanish. And
Really?
yeah, and then I realized Okay, I need to avoid that. So what I tried doing is that I tried learning speaking Portuguese with like the most like
Mm,
carioca accent, which is like very different from the most
mhm.
different accent from Spanish, so that almost no word sounds like Spanish. And for me, I think this had helped me immensely
Mm,
to separate the two
that's
languages
nice.
to the point where I can switch between Spanish and Portuguese almost effortlessly without mixing them up if I focus a little bit. So I think it's a nice trick that like that you have to really focus on the accent when you want to mix similar languages to actually switch the accent itself for your brain to separate them. At least for me, that's a trick that really has helped me a lot. So, Asia, for the future, you need to be doing I would recommend you to find a
Yes,
super Spanish accent, a
you
super
gotta,
Italian
you
accent,
gotta,
and
ex- you gotta extract your well money from inside.
yeah, yeah,
You gotta
exactly, yeah,
find
yeah.
your,
You can
yeah,
speak with like Puerto Rican accent, Spanish.
because
Well,
yeah,
Puerto Rico, it's the best.
Ooh,
It's the best. It's the accent of Wild Bunny. For those who
yeah.
don't know, dear listeners, I'm a huge Bad Bunny fan, and
in
for
case
what
Not
you
is
didn't
only you,
notice.
not only
from
you. Por
Spotify
favor.
wrap up, not only me, not only me. It's the
Esatto,
official
esatto.
singer of BT podcast. But yeah, that's an excellent tip, I think, Tilemahos. So thank you for sharing that. I mean,
Good consejo. Good consejo.
uh, buen consejo, yeah, good consejo. I mix, not because I want to, not deliberately, but sometimes like I can't help it, like, and I also have a theory about good language days and bad language days, and on bad language days, like I mix like hell. But my attitude has usually been like, I have tandem partner, a Spanish friend of mine, which I've mentioned before, and we talk every week. And when I mix it, and he's like, "This word doesn't exist in Spanish," and I'm like, "Well, guess what? You learned a new word in
Just
Spanish
now.
now. Congratulations." But
You're
of course, yeah,
welcome.
it's unavoidable, like when the languages are so similar. And also it depends on how much you said about the accent. Another thing I can add is how much time, right, you devote to each language, because usually it's not even. And when it's not
Hmm.
even, when you practice one language more than the other, that's just gonna
It's
happen.
gonna
You're gonna
dominate.
be mixing, because your brain will be searching for words, and those would be the closest words that it will find. And
Yeah.
that's that's it. So you gotta like practice equally if you don't want to mix,
Hmm.
I guess.
I guess so. I mean, I will leave dear listeners with my multilingual personality because I think you guys miss it tremendously. And frankly, it is definitely like belonging to kind of a secret club of, brain that chooses the best word possible for the context. And I swear, I don't try to make it up. But yeah, sometimes practicing in one language is good. That's why this podcast is also great. It's English. It's mostly English,
Hmm.
even though there is some multilingual content in here. So yeah,
Yeah, it's English, love. And
exactly.
on this very British note, dear listeners, we have
We finito. Wrap it up.
finito. Yeah, exactly. خلاص خلصنا خلاص. Uh,
خلاص يترك.
yeah, so now
All
we're
the
just
mixing
going.
happens now.
Exactly. Like now our brains, like, 20 minutes concentrating on English, we can't hold back anymore. Like we have to let it out. So that you guys can what do you call it? Skip us mixing languages and stuff. I think that it's better to wrap up.
I have a
And
final note actually before we wrap up. There is a song in Greek that's been written in like the I think 1930s or something that is actually written in is mixing I think three or four languages. They're all like kind of like Greek eyes, so they mix us in Greek, but it's actually a mix of four languages, and it sounds like Greek, but it's actually French, Spanish, Italian, and Turkish and Greek, I think, all together.
wow,
And
That's
this
so
really
cool.
came to my mind when we were talking about this. I'm trying to remember the title, but yes, I would. Maybe we can put it in the description. So if
Oh
anybody wants
yeah.
to check that out, I
Hmm,
can also post it. And I'll send it, of course, to
certainly.
you guys as well.
Certainly. Yeah. Sounds like a fun
And
song.
we'll see you in the next episode, surely.
Which would be an interview. So, yeah, get excited about that one already. Kisses, beijinhos, besos, buse. That's in Arabic. From breakfast together. See?
Görüşürüz.
This is everyone. By the way, I remember the song. It's called "Et de la magie de Botanique," which is
Mashallah.
basically like magas is an Albanian word. Et de la is like I think French. Botanique is also French. De is Spanish. So yeah, check out "Et de la magie de Botanique" if you want the
We're
mix.
gonna write it in the description as well.
Exactly, yes. So
Thank you
everybody
for
have
sharing
a
today.
beautiful Sunday, beautiful Domingo.
Yeah,
Que
then
tengas buen domingo.
try to follow the good breakfast together tradition. No inglés domingo.
Esatto.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Adio.